Mayawati and you can have my support. Jayalalitha says dismiss DMK, you can have my support. How far will parties go to get into power this time?
Well, I think before we get into the political conduct of political parties, which in a given situation people are capable of going in either direction, let's look at the constitutional limitations. After the Supreme Court judgments, when you even decide to dismiss, you will have to put people in a suspended animation and then get it approved by both houses of parliament. Now the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, with the kind of split polity we have, the same party or the same alliance may not have majority in both of them, and therefore you may not be able to get it ratified by both houses of parliament. And therefore, to raise this issue as a rhetorical issue so as to exploit a sentiment against a given political party in an election may be possible, but I speak not as BJP but purely as a student of Indian Constitution. I think constitutionally it would be very difficult to do so.
Right. Abhishek, the Constitution won't prevent you in Tamil Nadu from just withdrawing support from the DMK to get Jayalalitha's support. Is that tempting?
I think it's completely speculative at this moment, completely and totally. We are in an alliance with the DMK and this is nothing but speculation. Let me tell you this, the crucial first point has to be the single largest pole towards which other parties feel like gravitating. And if you add up from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, on individual Congress alone and BJP alone, the arithmetic will tell you that from states like Jammu and Kashmir, Punjab, Haryana, Delhi, Rajasthan, Gujarat, at the worst we retain how much we have, Karnataka,
so Abhishek, if I
Odisha,
can just interrupt.
West Bengal, Northeast Tripura, we will be the single largest.
Abhishek, you were talking about...
The second question is, just 1 minute.
Okay, carry
just
on.
1 minute. The second question is, if we are the single largest, common sense tells everyone that the vast majority of those players out there calling themselves third, fourth or fifth front are naturally, historically and philosophically more inclined towards our way of life than that of the NDA.
Right.
That's what logic tells you. 1 + 1 will make us through.
Right, Abhishek, you said that I was indulging in speculation. You just did a whole state-by-state role of speculation. But Shekhar, how far do you think people... Everything's up for grabs. It's not about ideology, who various parties join. There are about 30 parties now that will go wherever the power is. How far will people go this time? I mean, we're used to ministerships being offered. Will governments be toppled?
See, I think I agree with Arun. I think given the way Supreme Court has settled this law, it's going to be impossible for anybody to dismiss a state government. It's not just going to be very difficult. Maybe Arun, because they'll have to do the same bargaining, maybe he doesn't want to use the word impossible because somebody might come to them with some similar demand and then he might say, we'll examine it, we'll set up a committee, we'll see. But I think unless you have a very serious constitutional breakdown in a state, which by no means can you...
So what would you see? One is you'd see ministerships being offered. That's par for the course.
Ministerships, there'll be issues like cases.
CBI, yes.
CBI.
Your favorite topic. Well, the independent CBI yes, will be brought into the forefront.
Well, independent or the pliant or the creative CBI, because CBI can swing from one extreme to the other in no time. We've seen they've been very talented at this. Right. So I think a lot of the people will be bothered more about their cases. I mean, we've seen, for example, how the CBI has conducted itself in Mulayam Singh Yadav's case. And
yes,
and Mayawati's case.
Highlighted that.
I mean, those two are going to be...
So this is going to be a crucial aspect. Arun, is that a worrying aspect of the kind of coalition politics we're talking about, that different institutions of the government...
I'm not...
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think we are seeing too much of a devil in a coalition politics. If we see the experience of 1998 or 99 particularly, the last 10 years, coalition politics in India has matured substantially. And I think ultimately the possibility of these kind of things happening will be a little less. CBI of course is capable of being misused by anyone unless we bring the kind of CBI reform which is being suggested. But I think if one of the two major political parties, and I completely disagree with Dr. Singhvi, because my arithmetic completely disagrees with his arithmetic. So let's wait for the 16th to have the last word of the subject. Now, Now, if the arithmetic decides that there is a substantial gap between the two leading parties or the two large alliances, I think the gravitational pull will naturally be towards those political parties. And once you have that kind of a combination in place, at least for a reasonable period of time, I think a coalition government in India is capable of working.
I had a question for Mr. Jaitley, which is this, that if you look at the NDA as it is now, its principal constituents, if you leave out Nitish Kumar, there's a kind of ideological affinity that they seem to share. You know, whether it's the Akali Dal or whether it's the Shiv Sena, whether it's the AGP, a belief that, you know, dominant religious communities should call the shots in their political territories. Do you think there's a sense in which the NDA is being defined by its constituents ideologically?
Well, I think there is a fundamental difference between the NDA and a Congress-led alliance. Now, as far as the NDA is, there is some kind of a convention which seems to have developed that ordinarily the BJP leads the coalition in the center, and we do a fair power sharing with our allies, who are all our senior partners in the states. They lead the government in the states, but we are not insignificant in those states. We support them in forming a government and we are led by them. In the case of the Congress, it's a grab-all mentality. I think if you compare this pattern which we have developed in the last 10 years and compare it with the Congress, what the Congress has done. The Congress shortchanged the left. It ruled on the strength of the left for 4.5 years, and on the last minute it decided to discard the left. Then we go to what happened in UP with Mulayam Singh. Then what's happening in Bihar with Lalu Prasad. I think one by one this grab-all mentality of the Congress perhaps may lead to a shock for it as far as when the results are declared on the 16th.
Abhishek, would you like to respond to that, that you have a grab-all approach to getting allies while the BJP doesn't?
My friend Mr. Jaitley's invention of the phrase grab-all is an ill-concealed apology for a piggyback mentality, which is what really is happening. The sad truth for Mr. Jaitley's party is that his party doesn't have an all-India presence, so it can easily be in the power at the center with the TDP in the NDA and ride piggyback on an insignificant presence in Andhra Pradesh on the TDP and say, we have developed a model where the TDP leads in Andhra, ride piggyback on the BJD in Odisha, for a long time rode piggyback on somebody else in another third state. So this is the virtue of a party which was virtually non-existent in many states in India. Yes, he's right, but he's paying a compliment to the Congress. The Congress is an all-India party, and our natural allies in the center are sometimes our natural enemies in the states, and therefore we do have this difference. But that's because of our strength all across India.
Reverting the first
And
question.
let me tell you that
Right, just Dorab wanted to come in there.
this synergy is going to develop more.
Right, Dorab.
If you look at the initial questions of, can I dismiss governments, don't forget another option is open, which is engineering defections.
Engineering defections,
kind of
yes.
Operations Kamla, 30 guys just resign. And then
Yes, Arun, the
bring a government-
BJP was, can stoop pretty low as well.
anybody can, I mean-
We've seen defections being engineered by the Congress quite recently, but same with this Operation Lotus or Kamla in Karnataka.
so it can be done.
Can be done.
Well, this started for the first time in Goa by the Congress.
Yeah.
The Congress is the one which I amended the anti-defection law and eliminated the provision for a split. To bypass the possibility of a split not being possible, the Congress started it, and you certainly didn't expect to gift away the Karnataka government to the Congress, even though we had 110 to start
Congressization of
off.
politics.
This is, as Dorab calls, the Congressization of the BJP and all politics in India. Let me just come to an issue which both of you have talked about, and that is the number of seats everybody is going to get. What is happening with the multiplication of parties is that India is becoming very sensitive, the number of seats you get, very sensitive to the swing-in votes. Let's just have a look at how sensitive it's becoming. If you look at all India, a 1% swing can gain you 20 seats. And remember, your opponent will lose 20. So you can now divide the country into 3 or 4 different categories. The very sensitive states like Maharashtra and Uttar Pradesh, in those states alone, 1% swing, you can gain 3 seats. Then the sensitive states, we call them moderately sensitive, Andhra, Bihar, Gujarat, a 1% gain in votes gives you 2 seats in that state. And then the not so sensitive states, Haryana, now Kerala is entering that as well, Punjab, West Bengal, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Jharkhand, Tamil Nadu, a 1% swing in vote gets you 1 seat. But if you look at it all over, all you need in India is a 1% swing now to get 20 extra seats, and your opponent gets 20 less, so a 40-seat difference, Shekhar. So coalition politics also leads to these great sensitivities, a little change, and of course also a pollster's nightmare.
Well, I can now see why pollsters are hiding. Partly because of this, and I think partly also because of a very unreasonable election commission. I can afford to say so because we don't do polls. But I think some of the restrictions we keep saying elections have lost all their fun. I think one of the reasons is this. Because some of this, this takes us out of the realm of speculation. It's a science. And I think just the ban on this science has been very hurtful and very disappointing. But having said that, I think that's why today, pre-election, pre-poll coalition making has become very important. And that's why the rising importance of parties and leaders who have what is called as transferable vote. And the finest example of that is Mayawati, because even if she has 2% vote in some place, she can have it transferred to somebody.
Right,
There
transferable votes.
There are not many others who have
arithmetic.
that.
Abhishek, if I can just ask you, and honestly, I mean, you don't really have to talk about this election. I have a feeling that politicians, pollsters, journalists actually have no clue about who's going to win. Do you think you can really sense a 1% change in vote? In fact, I do remember even going back to 1984 when the Congress got 400 seats, and Dorab actually forecast that. But in the morning that the results were coming out, there was an article by a journalist saying, these two guys are nuts, forget 400, they won't even get 200. And most of the Congress didn't. So you couldn't see 400, a landslide. How can you see 150 versus 180 versus 140?
I think somebody even said you were in the Congress's pay.
Yeah, that's right. And Arun Puri said, how much did they pay? So I said somewhat. He said, that little? But can anybody sense a 1 or 2% swing?
Well, let me remind you, Pranay, that this is the first time I am hearing this comment when journalists and channels are not claiming to sense the exact figure by exit and opinion polls.
Well,
I think that itself is a change, because
Abhishek,
all of you were doing this.
No, we've done it for
some time ago.
We've said
Number
this for
two,
20 years that this is
the
a best
happy-
guess, but it's a guess.
Abhishek, all I can tell you is
Yeah,
that
I agree with you.
Abhishek, all I
Can I
can tell
just
you is
have
that
a
when
very
all
bad
journalists agree on something, you know the exact opposite will happen.
I'm so happy at that confession and that statement. I'm so happy. But let me just complete
but
very
politicians
quickly.
fall in the same.
I agree. I agree that the happy days of Dorab's prediction of 400 are gone. But if you just take a simple arithmetic from Kashmir state by state downwards, you will find that if you count the Congress alone, the arithmetic will tell you that the single largest should be the Congress.
Right, sir.
And thereafter, the normal history and philosophy will tell
Sir,
you
the
that
only
single
point I'm
largest
trying to make
combination of
is
coalition will be us.
I get the point. You're saying you're single largest, but the point I'm trying to make is a 1% swing could make you the single smallest. That's the Arun. How do you sense? How can politicians even sense just a 1%, 2%? 2% swing means 40 seats, and 40 seats lost and 40 seats gains 80 seat difference. So we're all a bit in the dark right now. Honestly, do you believe that?
I think Pranay, over the last 20 odd years, during elections and after elections and opinion polls and exit polls used to be conducted, the political parties also have learned a lesson from this. So I, as a thumb rule, rely on my own in-house pollsters. I rely on a report of what the political cadres tell me. I also rely a lot on what the vernacular press tells you.
Right.
And I think it's a combination of the three which can give you a broad idea, it can give you an idea of a direction, but it probably may not give you an accurate analysis.
Right. The 1%, Mukul, you have been very silent this evening. This 1% making such a difference. Is this a change in the Indian voter as well? And he's just now he switches back and forth. And also, by the way, has been asked the question, who will you vote for, so many times
that he
that he knows what you want, what answer you want.
What you want to hear. I mean, I'm interested in this idea of a 1% vote in some states being sort of less elastic than others. How does that work? How does it work that in a particular set of states, 1%
Some seats are tighter, some fights are tighter. So, you know, the 1% swing, you can move a seat. Some states, you know, if I win by
But the
great
margins
majority.
are huge, you need a
I
large
would have
swing.
expected Kerala to be like that.
That's
but
right.
now
It's
it seems
changing.
that
Yes,
it's
it's changing.
But why is
Yes.
it changing?
Because the
vote
margins of
patterns,
victory, I think there's a
wider.
bit of polarization seat
You
by
can't
seat.
do polls for us and predict results. At least teach us psephology.
But Shekhar, you
Well,
know,
I think that's all that will take another 2.5 hours. Can we have, producer, can we have another 2.5 hours tonight?
No, in the
No, we are saying
1970s
no.
and 80s,
We're being told.
1% moved 10 to 12 seats because of fragmentation and getting closer
Yeah,
and
it's
closer.
partly
But
to
the
do
same
with
1% moved 20
arithmetic.
seats.
That
Just
if there are
throw-
multiple parties, a small swing can give you a huge
So
change.
margins are small. Margins of victory will be
So
smaller.
1% is the new 3%.
Yes, something like that. Or 2%.
Arun,
or what, yes.
Arun and Abhishek, thank you very much for joining us. We do hope your political antennas are so sharp that you can sense 1% and therefore gain or lose 20 seats. Thanks very much for joining us. That's all we have time for. Shekhar and I will spend, and Mukul will spend the next 2.5 hours talking about psephology. Your says, you're spared. Thanks for watching. Good night.
वोल्टास ने की है पहल अनेक अंधेरे गांव में रोशनी लाने की। आज ही घर ले आए वोल्टास के स्टार रेटेड एसी जो इतनी बिजली बचाए कि गांव-गांव जगमगाए। Drive the fresh new Nova. Drive into a world of treasured memories. Drive to precious times.
$60,000 students, 130 programs. Amateur University, India's #1 ranked private university.
So in conclusion, I'd like to thank you shareholders for taking the time to attend. Excuse me? Yes.
And you're Mr.
Kulwant Patia, looking at your annual report, page 16, can you explain the implications of floating your long-term debt in a potentially inflationary economy? Awaiting your reply. Thank you, Kulwant Patia.
When we created a smarter kind of investment firm,
Do you know anything about inventory evaluation?
we created a smarter kind of investor.
Power that enhances the quality of life. Every day, everywhere. Crompton Greaves, everyday solutions.
Getting out of here, I'll take the rough way out, 'cause I'm a wanderer. Cause I'm a wanderer.
MRF Wanderer. Tread anywhere.
मुझे लंबा करो,
मुझे पतला करो।
मुझे वैसा करो। कुछ तो शर्म करो। अरे जल्दी करो। इन्हें नरम करो। ये साफ करो।
ये साफ करो, ये साफ करो। मुझे माफ करो।
अरे कोई है?
एक कंपनी है जो आपकी आवाज सुन रही है, तभी तो वो आपकी और आपके घर की हर जरूरत के लिए लाती है इतने सारे वर्ल्ड क्लास प्रोडक्ट्स। Amway, we are listening.
SMS Amway to 58888.
Tired, puffy eyes and dark circles?
Roll them away.
Wake up to Garnier's revolutionary innovation, Light Eye Roll-On. Its refreshing caffeine gel and unique massaging roller help reduce puffiness and dark circles.
Reveal brighter, radiant eyes.
Garnier Light Eye Roll-On.
Take care.
Garnier.
हर कोशिश में ही छुपा है रास्ता,
है विश्वास दिल में तो मिटेगा फासला।
विश्वास जगाता है सब कुछ, विश्वास कराता है सब कुछ, विश्वास बदलता है सब कुछ। विश्वास रहे विश्वास पे तो विश्वास ही सब कुछ है।
विश्वास है तो सब कुछ है। आईसीआईसीआई बैंक।